looking like you literally just cut out a tree and pasted it on the paper. The idea of this is to soften the edges so that the idea is to soften the edges so that it blends into your rendering better. Let me do the other one because this, all right. So all of these have they should have a transparent background, but for some reason, when I copy paste it into the other, it didn't. Prior to selecting them though, if you go look at the upper left-hand corner of your screen, there's a box that says feather. You want to change that to not 50%, maybe around 30% or 30 pixels. And what it'll do is it'll choose the edges that you pick and it'll soften the edges. So let me show you exactly what I mean because I feel like I'm not explaining it well. So I'm going to use my magnetic lasso tool to select the trees. And just with magnetic lasso, it'll snap to the edges. And hit enter. Before I copy paste this, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. Yeah, I only got one layer on here. And so I unlocked it. Typically when you bring something in on a background layer or open something, it's on the background layer automatically and the background layer is locked. If you double click on that lock on the background layer, it'll change it to layer 0 so that it becomes an active layer that you can manipulate. So I'm gonna do the same thing that I did previously, but wanna make sure that this function is on. Why does it keep doing that? I think because I changed the layer. So we wanna make sure that we put a value in the feather box. We don't wanna do 50%. So I'm starting at 30 just to kind of experiment. And I'm gonna hit edit, copy. And then I'm gonna go back to my rendering, which I have way too many tabs open as per usual. Where is the JE plan? There we go. And I'm gonna hit edit, paste. All right, so it's a little tiny, but you'll see the difference when I bring it to scale it to the right size. So now I'm shifting it with my tool. Okay, and you see how now instead of like these jagged edges around the perimeter of your tree, it just kind of softly fades in to the tree. So can you tell the difference? I'm just gonna put the trees next to each other. So this one looks like I took a pair of safety scissors and just kind of cut it out and then slapped it on my board, right? This one, however, gently fades in. So when I actually take out the background, it just gives it a cleaner look, more professional look, I should say.
Oh, Professor, I just wanted to let you know again, I've been having trouble with the what is it? Like, I guess this application, I still haven't been able to start it because of the issue with the school not allowing me to use it for free.
So you haven't been able to get in the Adobe Creative Suite yet?
No.
Either.
Okay. Still waiting for the school to get me more information as to why you're not
Yeah.
gaining access.
It sucks. Like, it would be a lot easier if
If you
I
could,
guess we'd all be able to just be in the computer lab, and then we'd be able to physically be there.
yes, this is correct. You are absolutely correct. I got another email yesterday saying that they were going to handle the problem. So hopefully, hopefully we can get it resolved this week. This is something that I contacted them about at the beginning of, well, prior to the semester starting. So I'm not really sure what's taking so long. But can you see the difference in the two trees?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So one has a softer, more refined edge, and the other is pretty jagged. So that's what I said when I was talking about the other day, like when I said I didn't bring in the trees correctly, that's what I meant. I should have, prior to selecting them, I should have feathered the edges so that it would give that softer appearance when it's put in. But that's no problem. Now I have one tree that's bought in correctly, so I can go to this layer and I can label it feathered tree. Here's hurt. And then I can really just duplicate that layer, and then the other trees, I can turn them off and eventually delete them so that now I have the correct tree, the correct appearance. So the other day we did a little bit of shadow effects. We did another material fill. I'm just gonna fill in a few more things on this and then go to, what's that thing called? The elevation. The elevation's a little more fun because you can start adding people. This card doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to delete the edge that they have around it and scale it down a little bit more. I'm not sure what that thing is like directly in front of it, but I'll just color it a gray tone for the sake of life making sense right now. Where's this other tree? What layer is this on? So again, whenever you can't find a layer or a tree or whatever, you can't figure out what object your layer is on, go to that move select tool and then right click on your screen and it'll tell you like this is outdoor ground. And it'll tell you based on what layer is on the top. So that's that. And I'm going to select my feathered tree and duplicate this layer 3 times just so that we have the same effect on here. And now I'm just moving the copies over into the spaces where they are on the screen. With this one, I'm going to make it bigger. So in order to scale it, I just use my move select tool. I right click on it, make sure I'm on the correct layer. Click on one of the corner toggles and then hold down the shift key so that it stays proportioned. No, that's not what I wanted you to do. And since what that feathering did, it made the tree a little more transparent. So you can go in behind it, behind the tree, and start erasing that back line so that it doesn't show up in your image. Okay. Let me check. I haven't checked my email today. Let me check and see if they have responded with help. They just keep sending me help notices telling me that somebody's going to help me with you guys getting into where you need to get to, and nobody does. Were you guys able to sign up for a free trial at the very least? I'm getting the impression no.
I noticed I haven't. I've been waiting for an email, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, they haven't told me anything. All right, so the last update I got from them was yesterday morning saying that they got my request. I'm not really sure what that means, but I will give them a phone call after class, see how we can go about resolving this. Another thing, if any of you are interested in doing a study abroad and you are Pell Grant recipients, like you receive a Pell Grant as far as your in your financial aid package, and or you have an active duty military parent, shoot me an email and let me know of your interest, because there is a scholarship that you are eligible for that would allow you to study abroad should you win the scholarship. I believe it pays for it will go to your board, tuition and fees, for whatever study abroad program you get accepted to. So all I'm doing now is just kind of zooming in and cleaning this up, this edge around the car. Selecting it with the magic wand tool and hitting delete is a lot easier than going in and erasing it. So that's pretty funky. I would definitely suggest going in and all of the tree lines and things like that, just erasing them. The last few things I want to do on here is to fill in this area with our floor fill, and then fill in the rest of our walls. And then for the time being, we'll pretty much be done with the plan. Of course, we can go in and add more photorealistic furnishings in there. I think I said I was going to put a desk in there, so I'll show you how to do that. Another way to go about doing this without having to how can I put this? Without having to select each individual thing. Let me make sure I'm on the correct layer. Like each individual section is I'm on my new floor plan layer, and I am selecting in this white area with my shift key. Again, make sure it's the actual interior portions of it and not the lines itself. I can hit backspace. And then I can do a new layer. I went to the top, I hit layer new. Another way to go about doing that, I'm just gonna hit OK for right now. Another way to go about setting up a new layer is on the left-hand side where it says layers. But I don't think you can see my screen too well. There is, I can't see the doggone thing. There's an option to, there's a button that allows you to add another layer over here. I just can't see it right now. Who's that?
I have a question about layers.
Yes.
So when you add a new layer and you specify what that layer is, do you have to select something, that specific thing on the floor plan so it can go on that layer, or?
So that's a great question. There are a couple of ways to go about it. So for instance, if there's an object already in your picture and you want to put it on a separate layer, you can select that particular object first. Like I'm going to select this bed. It's on, they're saying it's on layer 4, but I don't know what layer 4 is. So I may want to put it on a separate layer. So I'm going to take my rectangular marquee tool and select the whole bed. And after, oh wait, let's make sure our feather pixel is back at 0, because once you start, if the feather is still on, it'll continue to round things for whatever new layer you create. So you want to make sure that's at 0 again. So we don't need our edges softened on the bed. All right, so we're on layer 4. We don't know what layer 4 is, and we want to create a new layer. You can create a new layer by doing layer via cut or layer via copy. So I'm just going to do layer via cut so that it's on a whole new layer. And then now it's layer 6. I'm going to go into my layer toolbar and rename it bed so that I know that that's a bed, right? Or if I'm bringing in something from another, what do you call it? Another drawing, for instance, I might be bringing in a desk because I said I was going to do that. So I'm bringing in a desk. I hope this is answering your question. And I'm going to do basically the same thing. And I'm going to do edit, copy, go back to my plan, and then I'm going to go to edit, paste. No idea where it went. Oh, it's tiny. So this is, the pixels in this image are really too small. We should get another desk because it's not clear, it's fuzzy, but I'm just doing this for the sake of demonstration right now. Yeah, we're definitely going to change that. It's horrible. And do you understand why I'm saying this is horrible? Like the picture is all fuzzy, like it's not clear. That means
Oh,
there's,
is it because it's low resolution?
yeah. So when I say there's not enough pixels in it, the pixels are all the little dots that make up your picture in a photograph or an image. If there's not enough pixels, then it's a really low resolution. If it's a high quality image like this car and it has enough pixels, then we get a high quality rendering or photo. And this currently is not, so I need to find another desk. So just FYI, if you thought this was a good standard to go by, this is not. You want something that is high quality, similar to what you see in the car. That's a really clear image. The trees are decent. They could be clearer, but it's kind of like trial and error because we're stealing a lot of these pictures from the intranet. I hate to say it that way, but we are. Most of the places that make these things or make these little images or what have you, they will charge you for it. So to avoid the charge, we borrow. That's a better way to put it. But anyway, to answer your question, when I copy pasted this in, it came in on a new layer, right? And so now I'm changing that layer to desk. Another way to go about it is to create a layer, new, and I might say, what do we need to add? Chair. Okay, and I can go to file, I've created a new layer called chair, so I can go to, why can't I find the thing that I'm looking for? Place. And then I can put in a chair image from the placed items. And then that'll already be on the layer. So you can either copy to create a new layer and rename it, or you can create the layer first and then bring whatever object in on that layer. Did that make sense? I hope that answered your question. I think that was Morgan. Morgan, did that answer your question?
I didn't ask the question, but yeah.
Okay, who was it then? Andrea? I can't see your names when I'm in this screen. So whoever asked that question, I hope that answered your question about bringing different objects in on layers. So yes, I would definitely recommend bringing each individual item in on a separate layer, just in case for some reason you need to edit just that thing. It makes it a lot less difficult than if it were all on one layer. So for instance, if I wanted to add a shadow to this desk, I can add a shadow to it without compromising the rest of the rendering. Does it make sense? Oh, okay, that was Andrea. All right, so forget what I was doing prior to this. This is not what I want. Oh, I know what I did. I deleted this and I started to create a new layer to fill. So now I'm going to layer new and I'm gonna just call this floor, because I'm gonna do the floor under the stairs. So what you're seeing right here is that that white part is on my background layer. The lines above it on the black lines that show the drawing are on the floor plan layer. I am doing another layer in between those two layers so that I can just fill in the floor. And I already created the layer. I'm going to go and select the area that I wanted to fill. So essentially the layer above this is transparent, even though you see the white parts. I mean, even though you see the white parts. So file, edit, fill. I'm going to do my custom pattern again. And now that area is filled in. Still not at the correct scale. I don't know why I keep choosing the wrong one, but you get the general idea. And then I can do the same thing with my stairs. But I have to make sure that I go to the new floor plan layer and select whatever is white now on here. And the way I can do that is to select similar. That's not what I want to happen. I want to deselect this. There's just too many, because the Magic Wand tool selects pixels that are similar to whatever you're trying to capture. It will select everything that has like a white spot on that particular layer. So we don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do to make this less complicated, I hope, is take my Magic Wand tool. And now I'm going to select each of these, which I didn't want to do, but I have to just because there are so many pixels that show the same thing. I'm holding down the shift key so that everything gets chosen. Getting all these littles in between. Some of these objects on the drawing, I'm not certain exactly what they are because there's just so many different lines. But we may be able to go back and look at a section and see what some of the stuff is. And then there's that space in between. No, I don't want to do that. Sometimes it selects things that I don't want it to select. Either way, I've selected it all. And instead of filling it in on that layer that has the floor plan on it, I'm actually going to go to the floor layer that I just created and do an edit and then fill. So same thing that I did previously. Did it work? It didn't work. I think because I have the wrong thing selected. Now I have to go back to the floor plan layer. Whenever something doesn't work, make sure you go to the original layer. Like if you selected something and it didn't fill in what you wanted to fill in, go back to the original layer that you were working on. Because remember prior to filling it, like I selected everything on the floor plan layer, the new floor plan layer. And then I went to another layer, which was floor, before I filled it. Actually, it might have worked and I just didn't move the layer up. So let's see if that's the case. There we go. Yep, it did work. The only issue is it filled, but now because I've moved it above my new floor plan layer, I can't see the lines for the stairs. So I need to go back to these areas and actually delete the the white parts. So I'm on the, dang it, undo. I'm on the new floor plan layer again. So it's really just make sure you label and make sure you kind of pay attention to what layers you're editing on. And I am selecting and backspacing just so that that floor pattern will come, that I filled in will come through. And then I need to go to each individual stair, hit shift to multi-select things. Try your best not to click on the lines themselves, but the spaces in between. It's a little tedious, but I think the end result is kind of worth it, in my humble opinion. And of course, there are ways to do a rendered floor plan in some of your rendering platforms. But if you do not have a rendering platform accessible and you just have a photo editing software such as Photoshop or GIMP, then you can experiment in this way by adding different materials and shade and shadow. Another thing that I want to do is add a shadow to the stair so that it will make it look like it's lifting off of the ground. But one of the things that's not going to necessarily work well is if I just do it via blending options. So there's another way to give the appearance of a shadow in Photoshop. So I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to call it stair shadow. So labeling your layer is extremely important all the time. Professor can't spell. This is nothing new. So I'm going to determine kind of where I want that layer to sit. And I'm going to choose this kind of left-hand side of the stairwell. And then I'm going to create a rectangle. Oh, wait, whoa. And it's about, you know, the same size, the same length as the stair, but half the size. And then I'm going to fill it with a gray tone. So I got a whole new layer by itself called stair shadow, filling it with a gray tone. Bam, we know that's way too heavy, right? So now we're going to go over to our layer toolbar and play with the opacity, right? Another thing you can do is use this option called multiply, and that helps to fade your layers as well. So I'm looking at it, it's a little too sharp for me. I think it should be softer. So I'm gonna go back to the stair shadow layer, and I'm gonna use my magic wand tool to create, you know, select that whole thing. And now instead of, dang it, prior to that, let me do my whole feather situation again, right? Because that softens edges, softens edges. Can't talk this morning. So I'm selecting this thing, and instead of, now I'm gonna do a layer via copy. And I'm turning off my stair shadow just to see if it did what I wanted it to do, and it did not, which is totally fine. I'm gonna go back to my stair shadow. I'm gonna turn off layer 6 and I'm gonna try it again. Sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. I'm going to use my rectangular tool to select. The feather pixel is, now you see how it's rounded a little bit? That's when your selection toolbar is rounded, or the selection area is like slightly rounded at the corners, then you know your feather pixelization situation worked. So what I'm gonna do is do a layer via cut. And I'm gonna rename that new layer Stair Shadow 1, just to differentiate. And then the old layer that was Stair Shadow, I'm going to turn it off and then I'm going to delete it. Delete. I'm also going to delete layer 6 just because it's there and it's not necessarily needed. And so now I have a more realistic layer, a more realistic shadow below the stair. Can y'all see that? It's very subtle. I can still play with the opacity and the spread. I actually like this a little more than doing the drop shadow, because sometimes the drop shadow just won't give me the angle that I'm looking for. Another thing that you can do with this is add a gradient, which is a little bit extra, but you can add a gradient to make it look like it's actually going up a stair. I'm going to duplicate this shadow and put it on the other side. So I'm just stair shadow 1. I'm clicking on it with my selection tool to make sure I'm on the correct one. I'm going to click on the layer and I'm going to duplicate layer. So it's just going to say stair shadow 1 copy. And I'm going to move it to the opposite side. And that just gives my stair a little depth and plan. And this shadow might be too deep, so we can narrow it a little bit. But we just want to think about, you know, if there is light coming in through the windows, what would it look like? Where would there be shadows cast? What direction? Okay, so does everybody kind of see the difference now? Yes, no, maybe? And I feel like this gives you a more believable shadow than doing the drop shadow in the other function. So maybe be that because of wherever the light is coming in, the shadow on one side is darker than the other, of course, because one side is casting shadow and the other is, it has light coming through. So we understand how to add furniture. We understand how to add fill patterns for floor textures, trees, cars. Of course, we want to put better furnishings in here because these are too pixelated. We talked about that. This car is fairly decent. We're going to go around and shade in this gray more for the outdoor ground. And in order to get the same exact color, I can just click on these swatches down here in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen. Yeah, it's on my left-hand corner of my screen. Select the swatch that I want to change the color And then once I hover it above something on my screen, be it this blue of the car or this gray of the ground, which is what I'm trying to select. Once I select it and hit OK on the color picker tool, the foreground swatch will be the same color. And I know I'm on my outdoor grounds layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my pick bucket and fill in these different, that did too much. Whenever you make a mistake, just hit undo. I was going to just like select the whole thing, but no. You know what's happening? We need to go to our new floor plan layer where the lines are so we can designate what spaces need to be selected. Make sure you hold down your shift key so that you can select multiple areas. I think this is a garage. I'm not really sure what. I think that's the garage door. That's what we're looking down at. And then we can go back to our outdoor what is it? Outdoor ground layer. And take my paint bucket and fill in these items. All right, so that's all filled in. So all we got to do now to kind of finish this out is go in between, and this is something you should probably do at first, is fill in all your walls first. So I have a tendency to work out of order, but for the sake of your sanity, you want to develop a method of going about doing these things the correct way, because when you've been working with a program for 20 some odd years, you tend to take shortcuts that aren't necessarily rational. All right, so we can go in here and we can fill in these walls. Another thing we can do is clean up these lines in Adobe Illustrator, but I think I'm going to hold off on showing you Illustrator until next class. Does anybody have any questions? Make sure I'm on the right layer about what I just did. Were any of you able to get a free trial of Adobe or start playing around with this in GIMP?
No, not yet.
Okay, let's try and do that between now. At least try and get the free trial. I'm going to contact Campus Tech again today and find out kind of what the holdup is, because they just keep sending me notices saying that they got my notice that I need help. I don't know how that really solves anything, but hopefully we can get this resolved before the week's end. And I know I've been saying that for the past, month now? But I promise you, I've been contacting them. And I'm not sure what other priorities they have, but they're kind of leaving me hanging.
I have a question about a room.
Yes.
The room that's on top of the bathroom, is that the kitchen?
So no, I think the kitchen is actually on a completely different layer. I believe this house has 3 different levels. So this is a sleeping level, like a private level. You're talking about this over here?
No,
Corner? Where are we looking at?
to your left.
To the left, right here?
Hold on, I can't see it. Yeah.
I believe that's a study area
Okay.
or a library. It's not a kitchen. The kitchen is on another level. I just have to pull up the other floor plans to show you. So, hold on, let me see if I can. Let me save this. This is still an active layer file, meaning we still want to be able to manipulate layers. Once you save this as a final file, or if you save it as a JPEG, it'll flatten the image and you won't be able to manipulate individual layers again. So when you're saving it and you're still in the process, you can save it as a Photoshop file, or you can save it as a PDF, but you have to make sure that the layers are still active. So I would just recommend saving it as a Photoshop file to be safe, because a lot of times people will save stuff out and flatten the file, and then you're kind of back to square one because you have to break everything up into layers again. What did I say, Andrea? I was going to open up the other images on here. Let me see. Find it. I know I tell y'all to like be very diligent about how you divide up things in your files. I am the absolute worst about it, and that's why I try to remind you to do it. I have a very disorganized desktop. And I'm not afraid to admit that that is my weakness. You know what? It's on my other computer. Hold on. Come on, Google, be nice. All right. So David IJ Sunken House, sorry. So you can see here in the section that he's got 1, 2, 3 levels. One of these is below ground. So I think the one that we're currently looking at is the layer that's below ground. It helps for the sake of your,
Hello? Just what?
I think it kicked her out.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, class is over.
Class over. Yeah, class over now.
I'm dead.
sorry, my computer died. You can gain access to photos of whatever house you are working on, which the sunken house is a pretty popular one, so you should be able to get it. Then it'll give you a better idea of what each of those spaces are doing, and even how the light is coming into the house, because sometimes when we're looking at things in plan, it doesn't always make the most sense. So definitely go through the images. Now we're in something else. Go through the images, read the plans, read the elevation sections, all of that, so that you understand what is what. Let me see. So that's all I was saying. If you have access to photographs of your house, so that you understand better how everything is coming together, then use that. Because eventually what we're going to want to do is create a 3-dimensional drawing of this. We were looking at the level with the car. I was trying to find the level with the kitchen on it. I'm not sure exactly which level it is, but I know I sent you all of the plans, Andrea. So I would just go through the different plans, but that particular one was not the kitchen, that was the study. Okay. All right, so don't forget, Friday, we're gonna do a pin up wherever you are in this project. Just, print some PDFs of your progress and put them in the concept board that you have access to, so that we can go over, and I'll try my best to get in touch with campus technology, so we can get you guys up to speed with access to the software. This was recorded live on YouTube, so I'll send you the link as well. Anybody have any questions before we go?
No.
All right.
I just hope that I can get this GIMP worked out, including the Adobe Creative Suite.
Me too, Mr. Centron. Me too. I'm going to harass Campus Tech some more. Not sure what's taking them so long, but yeah, I've been trying to resolve this since prior to the semester starting, because I knew it would be an issue, because we had the same problem last spring. Either way, I'll do the best I can, and we'll see what happens on Friday. Y'all have a good day.